Where are you originally from?
Toronto.
Ah, but you left a few times.
Yes, I mean, I was born in Toronto and went to school in Toronto and got married in Toronto, had my first 2 children in Toronto, and got my first break in show business when I was 8 years old. I was doing CBC. And then my next break, my big break, was when Jack Richardson saw something in me and hired me to be his pre-production assistant producer or whatever, and really taught me what a record producer would be. I was 20 years old when I went to work for him, and 21 when Alice Cooper came in the front door. And nobody really wanted to deal with that band.
No, they would have been nowhere. You were the one who said,
well,
you gotta do them.
Yeah. My bosses and mentors didn't really understand these 5 creatures of indeterminate whatever, and clown costumes and
Snakes.
braided mutton chops and black fingernails and stuff. But then I was sent to New York to see somebody else that we were interested in signing and to get rid of Alice Cooper. So I went and saw the person that we were interested in signing, who I passed on because I didn't think she was for us. And then I went down to Max's Kansas City at midnight for the midnight show of Alice Cooper. And what I saw just knocked my socks off. It was astounding. It wasn't rock and roll in the classic sense. They weren't in t-shirts and jeans. They were in silver lame suits, and they had props and sets and lights, and there was a through line to the thing. There was almost like a feeling of a story, and everybody in the club had spider eyes and spandex, jet black hair, black lipstick, and black fingernails, and I realized that I'm in the midst of a new cultural movement. And that's what I said to Jack, and Jack said, look, if you love it so much, you do it. That was the beginning of my career.
You go.
Once we got successful, then the calls were coming from the States to, we had a big record in America and all around the world, and then we had another one, and then people were asking me to do this one and that one, and it was all coming from the States. So I moved to New York briefly in 1975. And then Pink Floyd came along, and I went to London and then France, and then out to LA to finish The Wall. And then I moved back to Toronto. After we did The Wall, I thought, this is a big record. I mean, this thing came out, it was like the biggest record of the past 10 years. And I thought, well, they're going to come looking for me, right? Everybody's going to want to work with the guy who did The Wall. Yep. So I get back to Toronto, and literally within 18 months, it was crickets. Bob who?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I did some great Canadian artists that I got a chance to work with, but my international business had dried up. One of those great artists was Murray McLaughlin.
I know him.
You do, don't you? So, but my U.S. business dried up. And I worked with a band here called the Kings. We had an international hit with Switch and a Glide. And they got an American manager named Randy Phillips, who came up for the second album to Toronto. And he said, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I live here. This is my home. And he said, yeah, but you're not working. Come to LA. And my parents were already living in LA. So it wasn't like they were against that idea. My mom was on my case like daily. Yes, come to LA, you gotta come. So we moved to Los Angeles. And within 6 weeks of getting there, I was in the studio with Rod Stewart and back into my more international practice.
Right. Well, tell me about the job of a producer. What are all the aspects of being a producer?
Well, the producer is very similar to a director on a film. It's actually kind of a combination of the director and producer on a film. So you're responsible, in a business sense, you're responsible for delivering a piece of product on time, on budget, and it's got to be of good enough quality that it's going to sell. That's basically what the film producer's worried about. The film director is worried about making something great, really great, and getting the best performance and the best quality of everything out of their actors, their lighting directors, set designers, everybody. So my job as a record producer, as a music producer, was all of the above. I ran the budgets, I had to run the schedule, I had to keep everybody moving, because we had a deadline and so on. But more important than any of that, I had to get the best performance out of everyone involved in the process, from the assistant engineer to the star. Mm-hmm. And when you're dealing with performers in particular, as you know, you're dealing with sometimes very complicated people who are extremely talented, but they also have emotional needs that drive them to be in that sort of a business, but that also make them quite vulnerable. And so you are not just their coach, not just their, in a way you can be their confessor, but also what's really important, at least the way I do it, and some other people like Rick Rubin, it's the same thing, you're their protector. They need to feel safe. I want the people in the room, I want everybody to feel like, I got them. Don't worry, we've got this. So when you say confident, you need to project that, because if you're not confident, if the captain's not confident on the boat, like everybody else is wondering where we're going, So even sometimes when I'm not entirely sure, I have to project that sense of confidence. But most of the time, I'm very thoughtful about what I do, and I like to think that I got pretty good at stuff. So most of the time, I'm confident that I'm doing the best I could possibly do. Now, maybe somebody else could do better, but I'm the guy in the room right now, right? So that's where that comes from.
This Governor General Performing Arts Awards, what does it mean?
For me, the most important thing about these awards, it's not that I got them, but that we have them, and that we, as a country, have chosen to celebrate the accomplishments of our fellow citizens, and to shine a light on people who do things that are exceptional on some level, and to celebrate the accomplishment of Canadians and not spend our entire lifetime tearing people down, attacking them, calling them less than. I think we're a culture about lifting up. And that, to me, is the most important thing about this and awards like it.
Famously, not too long ago, you made a grand statement and a grand gesture for Canada. Tell us about that.
Well, let's call it what it is. It wasn't a grand gesture for Canada. It was a big decision, personal decision for me, and it was a value proposition. I no longer shared the values of the United States. I was a dual citizen. I'd become a dual citizen back in the early 90s. I'd been living in LA from 85 on, and then moved to Nashville. And I saw the country changing into something that I didn't recognize and that I didn't particularly approve of. And I was yearning for home, So I made the decision to renounce my U.S. citizenship. I've always been a Canadian. I was born a Canadian, so I'm a Canadian citizen by birth. I renounced my U.S. citizenship and I came home. And what does it mean for Canada? I don't know. I mean, hopefully I can do something here that's of value, and that I can help make that a stronger fabric, help the country to stand taller and more strongly against the forces that are going to start to buffet us. We think we've seen it. We haven't seen it. It's just starting.